Hello, everybody, and welcome back to ZakIsCinema. Yes, welcome to the home to talk about movies. If you find that one of your biggest problems in your personal life right now is that you have nobody to talk to about movies, well, join me, buddy, because I'm not afraid to shout it in the corner of my apartment living room that I have nobody that'll listen to me talk about movies. So I'm talking to my phone right now, but vicariously, I am living through you talking to me, then also conversing with me about movies. So join me so we can all start doing that together, because there's nothing better than sitting down and talking movies. So let's get started with that. Today we are going to be reviewing and discussing the movie VHS 94, which came out in 2021. So as we jump into the review and discussion for VHS 94, obviously if you've been keeping up with the channel, we have been covering every single VHS movie in its franchise. We've made it a goal, a community goal at ZakIsCinema here to try and cover all of them through the month of October. I think I am failing miserably at that, but we're gonna keep trying here. We got some fun rankings planned, but I had such a fun time with VHS Halloween that just decided month of October we're doing every single VHS, and most of these are first time watches for me. So it's been a bunch of fun, and if you've been keeping up with the channel or are new, we're doing something a little bit different with my review and rating sections here. Since these are essentially mini short films all spliced together with a frame narrative, we're kind of going to be doing mini reviews for every single short film, kind of breaking down each and every one of them in their entirety. And then since it's hard to kind of rate all of them together, we're actually going to be doing a point scale rating at the end of each short. So it'll get a 0 if I didn't have a good time with it, don't recommend it, about a half a point if I'm kind of mixed on the experience, and then 1 point if I fully recommend the short film. And then at the end, you're going to get them averaged out and put into a percentage for my rating here. So without further ado, let's get started with the review section for VHS 94, starting with the first short called Storm Drain, which was directed and written by Chloe Okuno. A TV reporter and her cameraman follow the urban legend of Ratma into the city's storm drains, where what they find is far more monstrous and cultish than anyone expected. For me, this one, I do really enjoy its initial premise of just some local news reporters just trying to get a bigger story out of a story that was kind of disappointing. They go investigating the urban legend of Ratma, and then they try to investigate more of the homeless population in their town, try to bring awareness to a story and situation like that, and then crazy shit starts going down when they're investigating in the sewers. So I enjoy that. It sets up that mystery, that discovery, and we're kind of on the journey with these characters. So I like that initial setup here, and I think sewers are obviously unsettling and creepy and gross. So perfect situation and setting for a horror movie. But once it kind of started getting going, I did kind of find it kind of goofy because they were doing this story on the Ratma legend, but then didn't really get much out of the story. They noticed some like homeless people setups in the sewer, and then the reporters like, I have this genius idea that's gonna blow people's minds. It's gonna break the internet. We are going to interview and record these homeless people living in the sewer to bring attention. We're gonna save them. And I'm like, that's kind of like, how is that gonna help anybody really? And I get that's kind of the point with this flawed character here, but just bringing awareness, you're really not helping anybody. Like, everybody knows homeless people are alive. They're here. It's a concern in almost every major town and city in America. So I just don't know what literally going into their homes and recording them is going to do. So I thought it was a little silly of the reason that we need to get our characters into the sewer, but easy to look past, easy to kind of forgive there. And once we kind of get our characters in, they're recording some homeless people's setups, a little disrespectful if you ask ZakIsCinema here, but then they start interviewing this creepy, what they think homeless guy, just covered in dirt and soot, and they get real close to him and start interviewing him, telling him they're going to help him. And I'm like, this is like a little disrespectful. Like, imagine someone coming into your home and just videoing you, telling you you're going to get help. Like, again, a little silly to get in there. However, I think once the story and once we actually get our characters into the sewer is a lot of fun, simple creature feature monster movie kind of mixed with this isolated, wet, disgusting setting. So I think that works really, really well. And then once we get the introduction and actually get to see Ratman, or as the people refer to it as Ratma, I think it is absolutely awesome. I love how we get this unveiling of all these homeless people, but they're really this cultist church for this Ratman creature. And then we get another twist added onto it that the local pastor that was being interviewed by the news is kind of the lead guy on all of this and thinks they're doing it for a reason, sacrificing people to this Ratman creature. So I like that it kind of ties in some of those corrupt religious people, those corrupt religious towns, and shows what they're doing and how they're infecting people. So I thought that was really cool. That just creepy stuff going underneath a city is just a very interesting and creepy concept. So I thought that was cool. I think it leaves off on a pretty interesting high note when our reporters get into the sewer and the Ratman just vomits this stuff on the guy news reporter. I believe he was the cameraman, and his face melts off, and then it cuts away as they're dragging the girl over to her as well. And I believe the Ratman creature vomits on her as well, but then it cuts away and it shows her back on the news, and you don't know what happened. And then she vomits on her co-host, and you get this gnarly face melting scene with terrific practical effects that are just so over the top yet so gross and believable. So you find out that they kind of sacrificed to her. The Ratman creature must have accepted her and made her another pawn that could go out and interact with people. So I thought the lore, the implied lore, was very unique and interesting. And I think just the only thing that really bothered me about this, despite its like initial setup to get the people in the sewer, little silly, little disrespectful, but I wish we got more of that Ratman creature, that monster. I wish we got to spend more time in the sewers and really live in this cultish society and see what their end goals were and get more of that creature stuff. So I think this one would have really benefited in maybe tightening up those first couple minutes, or really just making this a longer short. So I think that's why I kind of got to give it a half a point for this one, just because I don't think it reached its full potential, but the ideas and some of the premises they were going for, I wanted to see more of. So yes, let's go a half a point for this first short. The next short we are going to be discussing is The Empty Wake, directed and written by Simon Barrett. A young funeral home attendant staying overnight at a wake begins to suspect the deceased may not be quite as dead as everyone believes, especially during the brewing storm. And right off the bat, I kind of noticed with this one that the found footage and camera quality seems significantly less and just more shitty than usual. And, usually that's not a big deal for me with found footage. I kind of come to expect it. If it's super clear, it kind of comes off weird and kind of loses that found footage touch. But I don't know. I'd be pissed if I was paying for this wake to be filmed and then you get this just ultra shitty camera quality, and you could tell they made it shittier in post-production. So I did not like how poorly the film quality was, and we have that issue a couple times in the short, especially with the frame narrative as well, which we'll get to. But despite that, I think this does have a great concept and an interesting premise for a short horror film just like this. And I think it's a perfect location for someone doing something very late at night at a wake, and it's a closed casket, and there's sounds, there's creaks, this girl watching the wake, waiting for people to show up late at night. Nobody's showing up, and she's left all alone here. So I think that's such a cool location for something like this, because I think obviously funeral homes and wakes and funerals, unfortunately, are very depressing and creepy and kind of unsettling. It feels a little bit better when people are there, and usually I think they're normally during the daytime, but this one adds adds kind of a layer of creepiness to me when nobody shows up to the wake. It's only one girl, it's at night, and when no one's at a wake and you're just alone at a wake, that is so unsettling, because obviously you can't mention how creepy a wake might be when there's other people around, but when it's just you, it's downright creepy. So I really like that. I really like that initial premise here. And to me, I think having this character in this situation alone was a really great idea, because, funerals and wakes are for the living. So when you're the only living person there, that's just unsettling. I like the storm, the brewing storm going on in the background. And it just kind of gave me the vibe of like a adult's goosebump episode in the best way possible. And to me, I think the simple story here, where they don't try to do anything big or grand scale, just keep it basically in this one room, in this one location. I think that simple story really added a lot to this and just kind of put me in the character's shoes of like, oh my God, I can't imagine being left alone in a situation like this. And then you get the introduction of this one creepy guy that shows up in the middle of the storm. He's paying his respects to this person that passed away. And as our character is like doing something else, this guy looks like he's doing a prayer and almost like raises his hand up and then just leaves. And then thought that was so unsettling. And then when the girl notices more creepier stuff, she goes to get out of the funeral home and realizes that guy probably locked her in. So it just makes that scene, looking back on it, a little bit more creepy as well. And to me, I think this is a really interesting horror premise, but also delivers on some of the scares and intensity. And then you get a great reveal of when this guy, Mr. Edwards, does wake up from his casket, and then he's in this demonic zombie state with half his face missing, and the effects and practical effects are really well done. And then you get shots of his body parts and half his face just on the floor, still moving around and everything. It's really unsettling. There's stuff moving in the background, and as you see this thing just kind of creep around as the girl's trying to like hide and not make too much noise. So thought that was really interesting. Just a fun kind of horror premise with a girl in one room and a dead person wakes up and nobody believes her. So I thought it was pretty interesting. Just unfortunately, even though I said I liked the simple story, I found the ending very disappointing, where he just kind of wakes up. He ends up kind of infecting her, killing her in some ways, part of this ritual, and we just see her kind of walk out the door or window, I think it was. I couldn't tell if it was a window, and she was like jumping out or something, and then it just kind of ends. So there's no like big reveal, twist, or crazy kind of ending to this. It is so very straightforward, and once it gets going, that's pretty much all you're gonna get, and that's about it. So I felt like there was some room to do a little bit more, even though I liked the initial simple setup. So I think for this one, I gotta go half a point. So we are at 1 point so far. Next, we're discussing the short The Subject, which was written and directed by Timo Tahanto. A mad scientist running gruesome experiments kidnaps people to build human-machine hybrids, only for his creations and his own moral boundaries to literally come apart. Now, I feel like this is a common thing I've been saying in all my VHS reviews, where I do think pretty much all of these have a great premise where you could see exactly why somebody would want to include this in a VHS movie. Whether it works or not, that's another story, but I think all of them, especially this one, has such a cool concept that lends itself to that horror and sci-fi, especially this one, which I really, really enjoy. And I love the first shot when you see this doctor, this mad scientist doing experiments, and you see this guy's head as he wakes up, and the camera kind of pans out, and he's like screaming, and he's on this like mechanical spider body, and he falls and dies. And that's how you get introduced to this doctor, what he's doing to these people, and how they end up looking. So that was a great initial kind of get you into the story without, a bunch of exposition or the mad scientist guy just staring at his camera yelling about what he's doing. I love that they kind of start you off by showing you exactly what he's doing. And I think, to me, like I kind of hinted at, it blends horror and sci-fi so well, but I think it also kind of blends some of my favorite genres and subgenres in horror. To me, I hate saying it out loud, but I do enjoy that just carnage heavy, gore heavy movie, and I find torture stuff in horror, not that I enjoy it necessarily, I think maybe I do in movies, but whatever, and it combines that, and I find the torture stuff in this so creepy because this doctor's kidnapping people and then doing all this torture to people, doing all these experiments and turning him into whatever he wants. So to me, it almost combines Saw, parts of Hostel, and a gore, horror, sci-fi experience all into one. And I think they really do execute this one very, very well. Spoilers, this is one of my favorite shorts so far. And again, talking about how it combines Saw and movies like Hostel as well. I think when the doctor kind of gets caught pretty early on, you don't get to see one of the human bodies that he's been working on. You kind of see like parts of it. We get a lot of POV shots from this main missing girl that he's been working on, but the FBI or the police come in, they shoot him and kill him, and I thought that was pretty surprising that they kind of killed him off in the first like 20-30% of this short. And then I guess that triggers some sort of lockdown in his laboratory, and you get his voice over the speakers as he starts communicating to everybody, and then just allows his human hybrid machines to start going rogue on these people. So I really like that blend of Saw just into a bigger sci-fi action horror movie. I thought that was a really cool and interesting blend there. And I think this short was already interesting, very captivating for me, but almost reaches another level for me once that first creature wakes up and you see the robot with these huge sword hands, like something out of Final Fantasy, and just starts ripping dudes apart, stabbing people, decapitating people. I love the gore, the effects in this. I think the found footage really works well because we're with the police, so we're kind of thrown into this horrifying experience. So I love that point of view as well. And then I think it continues doing really great things because it could have just done that and I'd been fine with it, maybe found it a little disappointing, but then you get that cool reveal of the missing girl finally setting herself free as Sword Man guy is tearing everybody apart, and as she slowly walks to this creepy mirror in the basement, and you get that revelation of what this doctor did to her with half of her face missing, replaced with this almost fucked up camera setup, almost with like speakers, earphones, and like a camera for her face, and it's just so unsettling. It's a mismatch of parts that almost kind of resemble a human head, but definitely should not be on a human head. So I thought that reveal that we get with the character here is very interesting as well. And then I think that provides a cool other perspective when you get that cool POV shot from her once she starts tearing dudes apart, finds that gun that she can lock into her arm and just has unlimited ammo and is just starting to fuck up everybody. Some really, really gnarly and graphic stuff that I think did well with not going too over the top, even though this premise is very over the top, and in this dirty, sad warehouse that's just deplorable, makes everything so much more gritty and grim to me. So I absolutely love this one. I think it works as an action movie, sci-fi, horror, psychological, torture horror, like everything. All of my favorite subgenres kind of mixed into one here. And I do really enjoy how it ends with one of the police officers helping save her. He doesn't shoot her, and then she kind of gets to walk off or limp off after everybody's gone. All the police are dead. The sword monster is dead and taken out, and she just kind of walks off like Hannibal Lecter at the end of Silence of the Lambs. So kind of that ambiguous ending a little bit, which I think worked really well here. And it's almost kind of bittersweet because you kind of wanted to see one of the police officers just put her out of her misery, but she doesn't deserve that. It's not really their say. Their family's looking for them, but then at the same time, you don't want her walking around like that. She's gonna have to be put down. So I like that they kind of went with that ambiguity with this. So absolutely love this one. Easily, to me, we're giving this 1 point. Next, we're going to be discussing the short Terror, which was directed and written by Ryan Prowse. A domestic militia group plans to use captured supernatural powers as a superweapon in their extremist plot, but their scheme spirals deadly. Now, to me, unfortunately, this is one of those more mixed and disappointing shorts where a lot of these, I was kind of mixed on, but overall really enjoying myself with this movie. But when we kind of got to this point, it almost kind of came as a screeching halt to me, unfortunately. It's disappointing, too, because I do like the initial setup of kind of following this militia rogue group instead of just one or two characters, but we actually get to follow a rogue group, spend a lot of time with the group, and I enjoy that kind of change in pace. But I feel like they kind of squander and waste those first 10 to 15 minutes. This is one of the longest shorts with the least amount of plot, and they really don't do anything to add to the group other than they're a rogue militia trying to take back America, make it what they see best fit for everybody, and that's really all you get. You just get some interactions that don't really lead to anything, and then them just executing people. So to me, the way I describe this one is unfortunately pretty boring, and then it kind of throws you for a twist because they get some blood from someone that they executed. They inject it into a bunny and it explodes like a mini nuclear bomb. So we get to learn more about what they're doing, their goals, and this plan and weapon that they're making. And it definitely gets more interesting once you figure out they have some sort of vampire blood that does this to people. But then it took way too long to get to that point. Once that happens, it kind of comes to a screeching halt. Again, I don't like any of these characters, so I'm not all that interested in their reasons and what they're doing together. And I just feel like this one easily, it's weird saying for a short film, but easily you could chop off 10 minutes to this one and add some more time to the other one. And, at the end, we do get revealed to this weird looking, creepy looking vampire creature that almost looks like a mix of a vampire, a demogorgon, and a Venus flytrap, and the smile monster demon as well, when it has this big mouth with layers of sharp teeth and everything, and starts taking out everybody, and then you get to find out what they've been hiding and maybe trying to plan to use. But to me, there's just not much plot, not much story. There just happens to be a vampire. They're experimenting with vampire blood, and then they all get taken out with what they were planning on using on other people. So again, not much to this one. I kind of even struggled to say too much about it. I just kind of felt bored during this one, unfortunately. So I think for this one, we got to go 0 points. But lastly, let's discuss the frame narrative called Holy Hell, which was directed and written by Jennifer Reeder. A SWAT team raids an abandoned warehouse thought to be a drug operation. But as they search deeper, they uncover snuff cult cryptic VHS tapes, mutilated cultists, and something black market. Ritualistic and very, very wrong. Now, this one, I think, almost has kind of a fake skin over it where it works as a frame narrative. It sets itself up very differently than our first couple of VHS movies, especially from the first two. But then once you kind of delve deeper into it, it is essentially just the frame narrative of the first two in a warehouse with a cult skin wrapped around it, where instead of popping in each VHS tape that we're watching as the audience, they're kind of walking around to each VHS tape and watching it as we're watching it as the audience. So there's a little bit more to it. I do kind of like how we follow this police crew trying to bust this crime operation, and then they discover something way more sinister and demonic going on, more than they initially thought. And it is interesting how they're kind of walking around this, ongoing crime scene and almost get put into a trance of watching the tapes. It has a unique skin over it, but essentially kind of doing the same thing that we saw to our first two. And I just kind of wish it led to more discovery as they were going on, because they walk in, they see a group of supposed dead people watching the tapes, and then they kind of walk around and see more people watching the tapes. So there wasn't too much going on. I thought they were going to lead into more of the discovery and origin side of things. This one also has an issue of just really poor and shitty camera quality, which almost just kind of of cheapens it. There's really cringy, poorly written acting and dialogue in this, unfortunately. And I think this one was fine. It was working for me as a frame narrative. It kind of makes sense, but unfortunately at the end, I think they try to do a big twist by having some of the police officers in this squad reveal themselves as part of this cultist people, trying to, of course, make another tape, add it to the collection. But instead of showing us or discovering this, we kind of just get it revealed, and those characters literally vomit it to us. So we find out this cult has created these tapes and are showing them to people, and then some sort of ritual, and that's exactly what they're doing here. So I wish that was more of the discovery side. I mean, it set it up so well to do that discovery side, not only with having a full police force here, but literally walking from room to room. So I wish it was more than just that creepy setting and creepy kind of layout, if that makes sense. So definitely not a bad one. I think it kind of fails with the twist, but only with its execution. I think it kind of makes sense and at least tried to do something different. So I don't know, I'm kind of all over the place with this one. I think I'm going to go half a point though, because it does work as that frame narrative and makes sense with what they're doing. I just don't think it worked out as smooth as they probably thought here. So let's go a half a point on that one. However, overall, I would say you can definitely tell that this movie got an increased budget. You can tell the quality shifted a little bit in a good direction once Shudder kind of took over. I believe this was the first Shudder produced one. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Definitely given the proper budget to flesh out some more of these grandiose subjects and topics that they were going for. This one easily has one of my favorite shorts in it, so I gotta give it big praise for this one. And overall, I think it's a very fun, interesting VHS movie with really only one short I wouldn't recommend, and kind of a iffy and really the worst I could say forgettable frame narrative. So I would say the majority kind of works for me, or kind of right in the middle, because for my rating for this movie, out of the 5 shorts, including that frame narrative, I gave it a 2.5 out of the total 5. So we are giving VHS 94 a 50%. But yeah, that's about it here. Please let me know down below what you think of VHS 94. How does it kind of stack up to the rest of the VHS movies? Did you appreciate some of my takes on this? Do you totally disagree? Do you fully agree? Let me know all your thoughts and feelings on this VHS movie down below. Also let me know if you like them more since Shudder took over. Do you like some of the older ones more? I'd love to hear your thoughts and feelings on that as well. But you have my thoughts. That's about it here. I appreciate anybody watching my videos. It does mean a lot to me, so thank you so much. And yeah, look forward to more ZakIsCinema coming very soon.